And there we go. Right. So sharing the screen. Let's do it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Word. And
do I need to click on any of this?
Say again?
Do I need to click on any of this? It says
no. You can just watch this. Now, these slides that I'm going to show you over the next hour, if you want a copy, I will send you the exact slides. You just need to send me an email. So let me just get this up. So here we go. This is just introducing me, right? Basically, here's my email address at the bottom of the screen. If you'll write that down, that's Jeff __ Calibri
_ okay.
Yeah, it's not a dash, it's an underscore, which is a dumb thing to have, but I've got it. And make sure you spell my last name correctly. It's quite long, at earthlink.net. And if you send me an email to that address, just say you were in the Word class, the Microsoft Word class, and by return of email, I will send you these very slides that you're seeing here, right?
Okay. I'm trying to get the spelling of your last name because the meeting is being recorded. Is over the rest of your last name, Kalwrisky.
Okay, so it's Kalwrisky.
Kalwrisky. Okay.
Yeah, with a Y at earthlink.net. Can you see it on the screen?
Where it says the meeting is being recorded is over.
Okay, so it's Jeff. That's weird. It's Jeff _ JEFF _ KALWERIS as in Sam KY at earthlink, one word, earthlink.net.
Earthlink, at Earthlink, okay, Earthlink,
And it's earthlink.net, not earthlink.com. That's weird, but I can change it now. I've had this email address for probably 25 years, and
I understand. I had to change mine.
It's like your social security number. You can't get rid of it so easily.
Okay, I got it.
You got it. So just send me an email. You send me a one-line email saying I was in the Word class. Say the Word class. Mention the Word class because I do other classes as well, and I won't know which one to send you. And you will get these slides, which you can then print out for yourself. Here's somebody else coming in.
Okay.
Just wait for one more person to.
Okay. All right.
To come in. There we go. Good morning, Queen. Okay, we'll keep on going. So, in this class, we're going to learn, the basics of Microsoft Office. Although I say here the basics, we'll do some pretty fancy stuff that often even professionals don't know. But it isn't that complicated. That Word is so clever and so well done and so powerful that there are things hidden in it that are really, really easy to use, but very, very powerful. And we can use it to, write documents, write letters, write shopping lists, anything that we want, we can create. We can even write, the Great American Novel. If you want to write a book, you can write it with Microsoft Word. You can do things like produce invitations. So if you have an invitation to a party, I've done this many times, you can use Microsoft Word, someone else coming in now, to produce really professional looking stuff, that otherwise in the old days you'd have to go to a printer and pay lots of money for. You can produce wedding informations and birthday party invitations and all kinds of stuff. And Word is so clever once you know how it works that doing that is not very difficult at all. So there we go. Good morning, Pat. I think you're on mute. There we go. That's better. Good morning. Good morning. We've only just started. Let me go back a slide. Go back one slide. Okay. So this slide introduces me, but basically it says at the bottom that there's my email address, right? And if everybody will just write down that address, then you can send me an email at that address and I will send you a copy of these slides. I hope you can read the address because I'm told that the recording message sort of goes over the bottom of the slide, which is kind of stupid, right? So the email address is Jeff, Jeff, underscore, not the dash, but the underscore, Kalweriski, KALWERIS as in Sam, KY, at earthlink, one word, .net. Earthlink is one word, .net, not .com, but not .net. I apologize for the long email address, but as I was just saying, I've had this address for about 25 years and it's now pretty much impossible to change. So if you send me a one-line email at that address and mention the Microsoft Word course, because I have other courses as well, I will be happy to send you copies of these exact slides that you're going to be seeing. Okay, so let's talk about Microsoft Word. So first of all, let me let somebody in who just went out. There we go. Welcome back, Queen. You're on mute. So this is not meant to be a lecture. This is a discussion. If you want to say anything, we're all adults. Don't have to put up your hand or anything like that. Just comment or ask questions or whatever you want to do. Right? Pat, I can't. If you're speaking, I can't hear you. So I don't know. Maybe your volume's been turned down.
Wasn't saying anything.
There we go. That's better. You can just check the volume. There's a little volume icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on it, it'll come up with a little slider that you can make louder or softer. So if your volume is too low, I won't hear you. Okay. So getting back to this, everybody just send me that email. You can do it today or tomorrow. Today would be fine. And within 24 hours, I will respond and send you a copy of all of these slides so you can print them out and you can use them for notes and, you know, to refresh your memory in the future when you want to start using Word. So, okay, let's just go to the boring stuff. What is Word? Word is actually a word processor, they call it, or word processing software. So it's a piece of software. It's written, obviously, as the name suggests, by Microsoft. It's probably one of the most popular pieces of software on the planet. Right now, there are probably hundreds of millions of people around the world who are typing things on Microsoft Word, literally in every, you know, in Europe and in Asia and in Australia, everybody is using Microsoft Word. So what is a word processor? Well, you know, word processor was software. Word came out many years ago, but it's an app or a program or a piece of software. Those all mean the same thing, that replaces the old typewriter. Now, most of us, of course, have forgotten what a typewriter even looks like. But, you know, there was a time when we typed everything on one of those typewriters, and you'll see that in a sense, the typewriter isn't dead. We're going to find things in Microsoft Word that kind of are left over from the old days of the typewriter, and they still exist. But basically now we can do stuff that we used to type. We used to type on paper, but we can do much more than we could ever do on a typewriter. So the Microsoft Word will check your spelling, it'll check your grammar, and it'll highlight it for you. You know, you should be able to eliminate typos. We all make typos, especially if you're a lousy typist like I am. Microsoft Word will pick up that you've spelt the word incorrectly. And very often it's clever enough that even if you've spelt the word correctly, but it's the wrong word, you know, let's say like principal, P-A-L, and principal, P-L-E, and you've used the wrong one, even though it's a correct word in the dictionary, a word is clever enough to say you may need the other principle, right? My principles are da-da-da-da. That doesn't mean the principal of a high school, right? That means my views, you know, what I believe in. And it will pick that up, not always, but sometimes. And it'll pick up most grammatical errors, you know, where you've used the wrong English syntax and so on, and it'll check spelling. It'll also allow us to do consistent and professional formatting. So you can format your document, as I said earlier, very, very professionally and consistently. Once you've done it and you've set Word up the way you want, it will remember all of the things that you want, and it'll make your documents look the way you want. You can put pictures in, photographs, diagrams. You can take stuff from your, you know, you can get stuff from your, say from your photographs on your phone. you can send them to yourself.
Okay, last time you was on, I sent you an email and it
Say again. Sorry, I can't. Say again, Queen. I didn't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, last time I sent you an email. I was trying to get a copy of what you taught, and you kept telling me that it was sent, but
I didn't get the email, so please send it
I
again.
couldn't pull it up. I need you to send me a copy of this so I can practice. Last
Okay.
time I was on was 6/3/21.
Okay, just send me. I'm sorry, just send me another email. I'm sorry, I obviously didn't get that email.
You're not answering me because it's telling me you're getting it.
Sorry, you're not very clear. You
I
haven't
would
got a good line.
appreciate it if you send me one because I tried for a while.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to pull it up, or I wasn't getting it or something.
At the end of the session, give me the email here and I'll make sure that I send it to you so you get it. So, like I said, it's very powerful that we can introduce photographs, diagrams, pictures, whatever we want. We can save our documents so that they don't get lost. The windows out.
The best time, I'll be coming in on Thursday, okay?
Yeah, let me just finish this if you don't mind. Let's get back to that. We can copy and paste standard text. So if we have standard text that we use a lot, we can copy and paste it in. So it's for lazy people like me, you don't always have to do things the hard way. Windows and Word will help you by remembering stuff for you. Oops, sorry. So you can use it anywhere you like. You're limited only by how smart you are or what you want to do. Letters, correspondence, shopping lists, recipes. One of my students said now that she was stuck at home with the COVID, she'd got all her old recipes that were kind of falling apart from newspapers and so on. She wanted to type them out and put them into a nice recipe book. Microsoft Word is perfect for doing that, right? Of setting it up, making sure they all look good and being able to type them, print them out and so on. And like I said, you can do brochures, flyers, invitations. You want to sell your car or something, you can produce a flyer, perfectly professional looking flyer using Microsoft Word. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get moving. So I assume everybody has a copy of Word on their computer. You will see the little Word icon, and it looks like this. If you look on the left here, this W, the whole of Microsoft Office, they kind of have this little icon and they got one letter. So Word looks like this with a W. Excel has got an X. PowerPoint has got a P and so on, right? So you can always tell that the icon, this is W for Microsoft Word. If you click on it, Microsoft Word will pop up. And usually we will come to this position. This is kind of where we start for the first time. The good news is there's nothing to set up. There's absolutely nothing to set up. It works right out of the box. You just have to understand how it works. And you'll find that it looks very confusing to start with, but by the end of today's session, never mind, future sessions, you will be able to see right away what it does and how it does it. So when you start it up for the first time, you come to this little screen. Down the left, it's got its main menu, right? And mostly you'll only see this once or twice. Thereafter, you can do it from the next screen that we're going to see. But here's the main menu. So it says, all of these are you can click on any of these words. You can see the word new is kind of highlighted, and that's the one we're on. If you clicked on info, it will give you information about your version of Word and so on, not particularly useful. New says, I want a new document. I want to start something brand new. Open says, I want to open an existing document. So if you created a document yesterday or a month ago or a year ago and saved it, when you type open, it'll show you all your documents and you can open the one you want. Word will do the searching for you. It'll find the document for you. Save and save as, we'll talk about in a moment. That's to save your document, to put it on the disk so that it doesn't get forgotten. Print is obviously connecting you to your printer. You can have as many printers as you like. Most people have got one, but if you've got 2 or 3 printers, it doesn't matter. You can print on a printer. You can share the document, which means you can send it by email or by text message to somebody else. Export, I won't bother about. And close is to close out Word when you're done, right? I generally never even close Word out. I just leave it running all the time. So when I come back tomorrow or the next day, Word is there. I just have to click on it and it starts up and it's got my latest documents on it. Okay, so starting here with new, there's some options, right? The one that you use 99.9% of the time is this one here. Each of these pictures you can click on. And this one says it's a blank document. You can see it says underneath in small print, blank document, and it's got a blank sheet of paper. So if you double click on this in Word, it'll open up a blank document, right? If you didn't want to open a blank document, but you wanted to open the document you were working on yesterday, then click open here. And instead of these pictures on this side of the screen, you'll see a list of files and it'll tell you, document 1 that you typed yesterday and document 2 that you typed last week. And you'll see all your documents. All you have to do is click on the one you want and it'll open up and take you to the next screen. Either way, you always land up at this screen. And there it is, okay? So it kind of looks A, boring, and B, complicated, because boring is it's got a big blank white screen here in the middle. It's all blank, right? This blank screen is a blank sheet of paper, exactly as we used to do in the old day. You put a blank sheet of paper in, and we're now going to type a document. And on top here, we've got all this confusing, complicated looking stuff, right? Up at the top of the screen. And that's what we're going to talk about as we move forward. So it looks complicated. It looks as complicated as the instruments in a plane when you fly in a plane. But actually, for the pilot, those instruments are easy. And for Microsoft Word, we're the pilots. And I'm going to show you how to use these weird little things at the top, these funny little icons and so on, to get your job done. So let me go back one step. So obviously in the blank section, you'll see the little cursor. Can you see the cursor? Everybody see the cursor? The little vertical line.
Yeah,
Now, that little vertical line, as you type, will move across, right? As you type, you'll see it moving across, and you can use your mouse and go back if you want to go back and add in a word or delete a word or something. You've got total control. You can move your cursor anywhere you like. But that's that little line there, which actually in real life, you won't see it on the screen here, but in real life is kind of flashing on and off. It's a little line that's going click, click, flash, flash, flash. It'll move along, and that shows you where next you're going to be typing. But you can, if you've got a whole lot of text here, you can move to anywhere on the page with your cursor, moves it to another line, click on that line, and you can start typing from there or editing or correcting. So the important thing is that, at the beginning of the session, Jerry said to me she'd like to learn about the spreadsheet as well as Microsoft Word. The spreadsheet is called Excel. It's also part of Microsoft Office. The interesting thing, although Excel is different to Word, it uses exactly the same human interface. It talks to us in the same way. And that's this funny thing at the top here, this complicated looking thing. It's called the ribbon. It's called a ribbon because it kind of looks like a ribbon. In the old days, before they came up with the ribbon, which they came up with about 5 years ago, you needed a lot more commands. It was much more complicated, right? It had menus and menus within menus and so on. Now everything is in this ribbon, right? And in fact, there's more than one ribbon, but I won't confuse you with that now. We'll talk about that later. So let's look at the ribbon. And here, this area at the top called the ribbon has a number of tabs, kind of like tabs on file folders. So imagine if you've got a bunch of file folders, a little tab sticking up. And here are the tabs. The first one is file. And these are all clickable. So if you click on the word file on that one there, the file, it will take you to that first menu we just saw, where you can have open and new and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to go back there. Home, this little tab here, which is highlighted, or it's reverse color. The others are white on blue, and this is now sort of blue on white. It tells you this is the active one. This is, as the name suggests, home is where you spend 90% of your time, right? Insert, design, layout, references, mailings, review, and so on. All of these ones here are additional ribbons. So if you click on layout, a new ribbon will appear, which will allow you to take the layout of the paper. In fact, we very, very seldom need to use these unless you're doing, really complicated stuff. So I'm not really going to bother with them much, but you can experiment with them yourself. So layout, for example, is the layout of the paper. You can tell Word that I want different margins. It will give you standard margins at the top of the page and the bottom of the page and the left and the right. Layout will allow you to change those from 1 inch to ½ an inch or whatever you want. I'm not going to bother with that because, as I said, 99% of what you need is right here on this one ribbon, the one called home. And the name home is very meaningful. What's important about the ribbon, which simplifies it, makes it less complicated, is you can see that there's a vertical line here, a gray line. I wish they'd make them sort of darker so that you can see it. A thin gray line right over there. And then there's another one over here and another one over there. There's 3 of them. And that divides it primarily into 3 areas. And you can see the name is at the bottom: clipboard, font, paragraph. Everybody see clipboard, font, paragraph. I've got 2 screens running. On which one do you see my cursor? Do you see my cursor here?
No.
You see it here?
I see it, yeah.
Okay. They changed something in Zoom, and it used to show it on the main screen. Now it's showing it on my subsidiary screen. But that's okay. So basically, this is good because this is a bigger screen. Here's the gray line. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Here's the gray line. You can see it. And there's the 3rd one. And it's 3 sections of. So under home, we have 3 sections. One called clipboard, one called font, one called paragraph. Again, this is where we spend 99% of our time. And most of our time is spent in font, right? 80% of the time's in font. Some of it's in paragraph and occasionally in clipboard, but 80–90% of the time, whatever you want to do, you can do in this one called font. So these are the 3 most important ones. And that's where I'm going to spend most of our time talking about it. So each tab contains groups of related commands, and the commands are divided off by these little gray lines and a description at the bottom, right? So let's look at font. It's all in green here. That makes it easier to see between the 2 thin gray lines, but you can see the name font. It says font. And again, the question is, what does the word font mean? Who knows what font means?
Letters?
Say again?
I said letters.
It's the letters, exactly, the way the letters look. So most of us don't even ever notice it. But if you look in a book, if you compare a book usually to, say, People magazine or People magazine to a newspaper, the fonts are different. So if you look at these letters here, the word each, for example, you can see that this is a very simple font. The letters are the letters. There are no little lines and things on top of them. If you look in a newspaper, they use a font usually called Times Roman. I don't know why it's called Times Roman. This font here is called Calibri. You can see the name up here, Calibri. The Times Roman is a little more complicated, and we're completely used to it because we've seen it for so many years. But look in the newspaper tomorrow, and you'll see that the letters in Times Roman have little, they call them serifs on the letters to make the letters look fancier. Calibri is a very simple font. It looks exactly pretty much the way you would print, right? Notice the letter G under Calibri. It looks like a written G, the way you would print it. But the G in Times Roman is that one with a little curly tail. If you think about it, it's got a little curly tail and a little serif on top. We've seen it 1,000 times. We probably never even considered it. So the letters are similar, but not exactly the same. But I'm going to stay with Calibri for most normal purposes. It works fine. If you want to do a different font, I'm going to show you how to do it as well. So in this section here called font is everything we need to know about fonts. you'll also notice that, let me go back a sec. You'll also notice that in each section, clipboard, font, and paragraph, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's this little arrow. Can you see this little arrow?
Yep.
Little arrow with a sort of square around it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is additional information. So they've been very clever. Right here, you see what you need 95% of the time. If you need something fancier, you press this little arrow and a little menu will open up. So everywhere in Microsoft Word and in Excel, a little arrow like this little arrow here, the one pointing down, or this little arrow sort of pointing to the right, down and to the right, if you click on it, will open up a new menu with more options. But they've been very clever. They don't show you that because most times you don't need it, right? So you don't bother. But if you want to, you can just click that little arrow and more things will open up. So for example, if I clicked on font, right? I click on font, this little menu will open up. Excuse me, not font, paragraph, the one that originally said paragraph. So let's go back here. Here, this, you see where it says paragraph? This little font, if I press that little arrow, then this little menu will open up. And it'll allow you to do, we won't bother with it right now, we'll come back to it, to do some more clever things with a paragraph. So the difference between font and paragraph is kind of obvious. The font is the actual letters, what the letters look like, how big they are, what color they are, and all that. Paragraph is, what does the whole paragraph look like? Not just the letters, but how do I want the paragraph lined up on the page and stuff like that, okay? We'll come back to all of this, so don't worry. There's also a feature, it varies slightly with different versions of Word, but there's this feature here where it says, tell me what you want to do. See that? Everybody see? In some, it's just got a question mark. Tell me what you want to do. It really says, I can help you. So the beauty about Word is I often forget things. There's a lot of stuff in Word and you usually forget them. If you just type in here, you put your cursor here next to this little light bulb or next to a question mark. Some of them have just got a question mark, which means, help, ask me a question. You can type anything there in English, plain English. You don't have to learn computer language. And in most times, 99% of the time, we'll figure out what you want and it will show you how to do it, which is very useful. So if you can't remember one of the features that I'm going to teach you about, it's all there in, I say, either the light bulb and tell me what you want to do, or some versions have just got a question mark, right? So for example, here's an example that I typed in a question. I can't remember how to add page numbers. So I want to put a page number on each page. I can put the page number in the top right-hand corner. I can put it at the bottom, in the middle. I can put it in the middle of the top, whatever. But I can't remember. I don't remember where it is on this ribbon. Just type in something like add page numbers. You can see that's exactly what I typed, or just page numbers. And it'll pop up with a little menu. You see this menu that popped up here? And it says, here are the things that you can do with page numbers. You can add them in, you can remove them, and a few other things, right? Well, let's say I don't want to remove page numbers. You can take them out. If you put them in, you can now take them all out. I want add page numbers. So if you click here, you see the little arrow, and that little arrow will open another menu. And here's another menu that says, where do you want the page numbers? Top of the page, bottom of the page, in the margins, at the current position where your cursor is, whatever. Most times it's at the top of the page in the top right-hand corner. So again, what do you think this little arrow will do? If I clicked on that little arrow next to top of page.
Take you to.
Show you what
more
page number you're
information.
on.
It'll tell you more details about exactly how to get it in the top of the page and what font do you want it in. You want it the same Calibri font, or you want to change the font, or you want to put the word page, P-A-G-E, and then the number, or just put the page number, whatever you like. There's going to be a whole lot more stuff next to that little arrow. This little arrow will tell you the same stuff at the bottom of the page, and so on. So you can see how easy it is, right? I can't remember something, just type in English next to either the light bulb or the question mark, and Microsoft Word will help you out. Okay, so let's do some stuff. So, wait a minute, let's go back a step. Before I come to that, I want to go back a step. Okay, so here we are at this point with the ribbon, and I'll come back to clipboard, but I'm just going to talk about font and paragraph for the meantime, because that's where most of the stuff is. Now, this font here, which has got all these funny little pictures, basically each of those pictures allows you to decide what you want to do with the letters. So, firstly, with the font is the actual name of the font. The default, what it standard works on, is either Calibri or Times Roman, depending on your version. It doesn't really matter. You see the name here in this box is Calibri. Now, there's a little arrow there. What do you think that arrow would do if I click on it?
Change the type.
It'll show you all the fonts, right? So if you click on that little arrow, a whole menu will open up with, I don't know, they got 60, 70 different fonts. Most times I don't bother with it, but you can experiment with different fonts. You can play with the fonts. You can find the one that you like the best. Just click on this arrow, little down arrow. A whole menu will open up here, and you'll see font 1, font 2, font 3, font 4. They've all got funny names. You just click on it, and now all your text will be in that font. And if you don't like it anymore, you can change the font back to Calibri or go to Times Roman or so on. And they are in alphabetic order. So Calibri will be somewhere at the top under C, and Times Roman will be somewhere further down. You've got to scroll down under T, right? I pretty much only use 3 fonts. There's one called Arial, A-R-I-A-L, which is also at the top under A, Calibri under C, or Times Roman, which is further down. Times Roman we tend to use mostly for sort of formal documents, you know, legal contracts and stuff like that. They would use Times Roman. That doesn't really matter. Okay. Next to it is a number. Can you see this number here? That's 11. That is the size of the font. Now, the number itself doesn't really mean anything, and I won't go into it. All you need to know is that 11 is bigger than 10, and 11 is smaller than 13 or 14, right? So it defaults to 11 or 12, which is the normal sort of size font, like you can see here down below, right? That's the normal size, but you can make it much smaller. You can go to 8 or 9. Let's say you're putting in a footnote or something. You usually make that in a smaller font. So without changing anything, you can just click here. A menu will pop up. Fonts 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. It goes up to about 64. If you were printing a for sale sign that you wanted to put on something, say you put it on your car, you could go to 64 font and it would come out big and clear letters like on a for sale sign. If you wanted to do a footnote where you wanted it to be smaller, we'll see that in the example I'm going to show you. You would choose 8 or 9. It would be a much smaller font. So normally the 11 or 12 is what you use. They're sort of standardized fonts, but just by clicking on this link, you can choose any size font you like, right? If your eyes aren't so good and you want it to print out bigger, go to 16 or something like that. It'll just make the font bigger. Obviously, you'll get less on each line, but it will work just fine. So font name, font size. Any questions on that?
I would like to ask you a quick question.
Sure.
If I was going to make a poster about the basic 4 food groups or just anything, could I select a large, a high number of the font size and type out the word basic, B-A-S-I-C, in that size and have it print those letters for me, and then all I need to do is cut them out and paste them on.
You don't need to paste them on. You can use Word to make the whole document for you, right?
Yeah. Or like I was going to say, paste them on a poster. You know.
Yeah. So you let Word do the whole document, or you might need to use 2 pages in Word. Let's say your your poster is this big. I'd make 2 documents. So one might say basic, and the other one say food groups. Print them in a big font, and then stick both of them side by side onto your big paper, and then it'll say basic food group. But as you're going to see, we could use different fonts for the top, not only a different size, but you could use a different font that you would like, maybe a more fancy schmancy font. You can change the color. So at the top, you could print basic food groups in red, and we're going to see exactly how to do that now. right?
Okay.
So you certainly can cut, but in general, not even necessary anymore. Just, print it out, let the printer handle it. And at the most, you might have to stick 2 of them side by side, right?
Gotcha. Leonard, thank you very
Right.
much.
Sure. So now let's start looking at some of these funny little icons before I go into the example. So the first one I want to look at is this B. You see the B over here?
Mm-hmm.
The B, and then there's an I, and then there's a U. Now notice the B is darker than the other letters. That stands for bold, right? Bold text. The I is sort of leaning over to the side, right? That's called italic, right? And the U has got a little line under it.
Underline.
So that stands for underline, exactly. You see how easy it is? So if I press this button here, if I put my cursor on the B and just click, from now on, as I type, everything will be bold. So can you see here where I wrote several groups of related commands? Several is not bold, but groups of related commands is bold. You see that? It highlights things. So you can either highlight by bolding or italic or underscore, underline, or any combination. So I could press bold and underline, and it would give me bold here, but it would also underline it, right? See that? Now, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. That could be useful on a poster where you might want to bold things and underline them or make them bold and italic. You can. So if I press bold, italic, and underline, what's going to happen? It'll be all 3 of them. It'll be bold, italicized, and underlined.
Right.
I don't know why you want to do that, but you can certainly. Now, question. Once I bolded like this here, then I want to stop bolding. See, from this point on, it's not bold anymore. How do you think I turn it off?
Click on the word.
Click it again.
Click it again. It's like a light switch. If it's on, it goes off. And if it's off, it goes on, right? So if you accidentally even forget to turn it off, I'll show you how easy it is now just to go and reverse it so that the bolding stops at a particular point at the word where you want. So right here, I would type several, type the word several, then a space, then I would hit the bold, then I would type groups of related commands, and it would be darker like this, and then I would hit the bold button again, and right here you can see the bold is switched off. See that? It's turned off.
Yes.
That's exactly like a light switch. If it's on, it goes off, and if it's off, it goes on. Really, really simple. So those are 3 very, very useful things: bold, italic, and underline. Now I'm going to look at this one here. So again, these icons look a bit odd, but once you know what it is, it's kind of obvious, okay? This A and A, excuse me, allows me to choose the case of the word, uppercase or lowercase. So you can see if there's a little arrow, if I click on it, it'll say, do you want everything lowercase? Do you want everything uppercase? Or do you want things in what they call sentence case? Sentence case is where the first letter of the sentence is a capital letter and all the rest are lowercase letters. If I now, after I've typed this and I want to change this word contains to uppercase, I would highlight the word. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. Make my word know that you're talking about this word here. And then you would click this little button and one of the options is uppercase. And if I click the button then that says uppercase or the option uppercase, then the word contains would immediately turn up to all capital letters, capital C, capital O, capital N, and so on, right?
Hello.
Is that not clever, right? That's
I'm okay, Mary. What's going on?
Jerry, could you mute yourself, please? We'll be chatting. Thanks. So this allows us to change the case, and you can see the icons.
Okay, can I get back with you, Mary?
The icon is very clever. It shows you AA, right? Capital A, small a. So it's kind of a hint that this is the case. We don't often use it, but like for your poster, for example, you know, your heading would probably be all uppercase. Right now, you could type it in uppercase. You could hold down the shift key and type, you know, say you want to have the word food. Hold the shift key, type F-O-O-D, and that would be uppercase F, uppercase O, and so on. Or you can just hit this button here, right? Choose all caps, This will be one of the options. Choose all caps and then start typing normally. And even though you type in lowercase letters, Word will remember what you told it and it'll make them uppercase. And when you want to stop, again, click this button and now click lowercase and it'll go back to lowercase, right? So there's always two ways to do everything. You can change your case by using the shift key on your keyboard, or you can let Word do it for you, right? These two letters here, you can see you've got an A with an arrow going up and a smaller A with an arrow going down, right? What do you think those two would do?
Make it all uppercase for the
Make-
large A.
No, now it's the size of the letter, making the text bigger or smaller. So
Okay.
instead of actually typing the number in here, like I said, you could type 16 or change it to 16. Here you can just press the arrow and one press will make it a little bit bigger, another press will make it bigger again and so on. And you can see you've got a big A and a small a, and the arrow goes up and the arrow goes down, right? So that's another way to change the size of the text. And notice these two A's are directly under the number that was the size of the text. So you can easily change the size of the text by clicking on this little arrow here or by clicking on these two arrows here. This one makes it bigger and this one makes it smaller, right? Here's a very interesting one. So you've got an A with a red line underneath. It's red. Who can guess what this button does? This is a button.
It redlines the word you're typing.
Say again?
Does it redline?
No,
red line
no.
under the word you're typing?
No. This is the actual word you're typing, the font. So now, if you just click the button as it is, the text will change to red, right? But I don't want red. Let's say I want green. How do you think I'm going to get a different color?
Click on the down arrow, I guess.
Click on the little down arrow. And when you click on it, a little box of colors will open up, like a paint box. It'll be green and blue and red and yellow. And there's about 20 different colors. You can use purple, whatever you like, right?
Right.
If I click on that and I choose green, and now I carry on typing, what's going to happen to the letters?
They all want to be green.
Right? So if I'm here at the word several, and I press this button here, the word several now will be S-E-V-E-R-A-L, exactly the same, but the letters will be in red. How do I stop it from being red?
Click the button again.
Right, just hit the button again. See that? Very, very useful. I'm going to only tell you two more, and then we're going to move on. So this one here on the left, this has got this sort of fancy A. Can you see this sort of fancy?
Yeah.
If you click, either if you click on the A, you'll get an A that looks like that. Or if you press the down arrow, you'll see all kinds of fancy letters. You know, if you look at, say, People magazine, the first letter in the paragraph will often be much bigger and it'll be a fancy schmancy letter, you know, there are all kinds of artistic designs that you can use. So if you click on this, you will see lots of artistically different letters, you know. So here's an A that looks like it's got a, you know, it's double thick, you notice it's thick and it's got a sort of halo around it and so on. You can use that one or click the little arrow and they've got cursive letters and all kinds of fancy schmancy stuff. I hardly ever use that, but you might want to use it in a poster, right? And so go and look at classically like People magazine. Magazines, very often the first letter in an article is usually a different kind of letter. You know, it's this sort of artistic kind of letter. They often do it just to make it look fancy. So whatever they can do in a book or in a newspaper or in People magazine, you can do exactly the same thing. Now this one is also, this one here, this last one looks like a little pen. It says AB with a little pen and then yellow. That is, you remember when we were at college and you wanted to highlight something so you remembered it? Remember you had a yellow marker, you had a yellow highlighter?
Yeah.
That's that kind of letter. So the letters stay black, but the background changes to yellow or green or blue or whatever.
Darn.
Isn't that clever?
That
so
is
if I now
cute.
wanted to, let's say I'm writing this for you guys and I want you to remember this groups of related command. all I'd have to do is at the beginning of groups is click on that button, and now the whole set of words will be as if I had drawn a yellow highlighter on it, right? So again, don't often use that, but again, it can be useful in things like invitations or posters or whatever. So this one makes the actual letters yellow, red, green, whatever. You could, they carefully use yellow there and red there so you don't mix them up, but you can certainly turn the letters to yellow if you wish. Wouldn't be a good thing to do because yellow is hard to see, right? So we're much more likely that the letters would be red, say, or dark green or something, and then the highlighter is usually yellow. But if you click on this little arrow next to the highlighter, you get a whole palette of different colors, and you can highlight it. You can draw your highlighter pen in yellow or green or blue or pink or whatever you like. Isn't that cool? Right?
It is.
Yeah, you just gotta remember everything, you know what I'm saying? Plus what it is you're typing, the subject matter about what you're typing, and then you gotta remember, oh, I can
Exactly.
supplement
right
all these
now.
other.
The good news is you can either do all of this fancy schmancy stuff as you type, or you can just type it and come back afterwards and figure out how to do it. So let me tell you how to do that now, how to come back afterwards. Let's say I've typed all of this stuff over here and I didn't do any of this bolding and whatever. Now I come back and I say, I'd like this first E to be a big fancy schmancy E, like this funny, this A, and I like these words here to be bold. The way you do it is very, very simple. You have to do in Windows or in Microsoft Word what is called highlighting. Now, that's a bad word and they use it. It's not a good word because we've already got a highlighter. You remember this yellow thing that like we highlight? They use the word highlight in Windows and Microsoft. It doesn't mean the same thing. Highlighting just means I want to point out to which words I'm interested in, right? So the way you highlight is, listen carefully. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Let's say I've typed this all in normal text. And now come back at the end and say, I'd like to emphasize this. I want to bold it or underline it or italicize it. You put your cursor over here. See where on the left of the G, you see where my arrow is?
Yes.
You hold down the left button, the one with your left, with your pinky, with your pointer finger. So where you press that down, you hold it down. You hold it down. Don't let it go. And now you just drag the mouse. Oops, sorry. You drag the mouse across to the right until you get to the end. And you will actually see the background changing. It'll either go a lighter or a darker color, depends on your version of Word. But you'll see that the background changes. And when you get to the end, you just let the mouse go, right? Don't go any further. Now, if you hit bold, Word knows, you want to bold what you just highlighted for me. And it will bold just those words. If I go too far, what happens if I went too far? I went to the end of the word for. I said, oh no, you idiot, I only wanted to stop at the S. Well, it'll bold the for. All you have to do now is again, highlight the for, put your cursor next to the F, hold down your left button with your pointer finger, this one here, hold it down, drag it over the for and press bold again. It was bolded before, so what's going to happen now?
Unbold it.
It'll be unbolded. See how easy it is?
The only problem with that is I don't have a mouse.
You don't have a mouse. What have you got? Just the on your keyboard.
I just have a iPad, and I use everything with my fingers.
Oh, okay. It works exactly the same. The way you do it with an iPad or even with your phone is you put your finger over here and you hold it down. You press it down.
Okay.
Right? You hold it for a couple of seconds and then drag your finger across, and it'll be exactly the same as working with a mouse. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Right.
Thank you.
So you can do that in a text or whatever. The equivalent on a non-Windows, mouse machine is hold it down, don't push your finger through the screen, just hold it gently down for a second or two. And then when you drag it across, you'll see the letters changing color. And if you go too far, just go back a little bit, right? And they will unbold, but they will unhighlight. Now, you can also, you don't even have to do it one line at a time. Let's say I would want to bold this entire thing that I've typed here, both lines. I decide now, or let's say I want to italicize them. For whatever reason, I've decided all of this should be italics. So I put my cursor next to the E. What do I do next?
Hold it
Scroll
down.
down.
Hold down the left mouse and drag. I can now drag it downwards at an angle all the way to the end here. And it'll automatically highlight that line and highlight this line. I don't have to actually go to the end of each line. I can go from here downwards to the end there, and both lines will highlight. And now when I press the italic button, what's going to happen? Everything will be italicized. See that?
Okay.
And again, if I choose not to italicize, I don't want to italicize the word home. All I do is put my cursor next to the H, drag it over the word home, and press the italic button again. And if it was italicized, it now be unitalicized. See that? Isn't that clever, right?
Yes.
Isn't that clever? So we've seen a whole lot of confusing little buttons here that basically, once you know what they do and you've used them once or twice, are really, really, really simple. 95% of the time, again, as I said to you earlier, you'll probably be using Calibri, but you can change that. And you're going to be using bold, italic, or underline, but not all of them. One of them, whichever one you prefer. The rest, you're not going to use that much. But if you're making a poster, you probably will want smaller and larger letters, and you'll probably want colored letters, right? Because a poster looks much more fun when stuff is in red and green and blue and highlighted and stuff like that. So for a poster, I would go to a much bigger font. Maybe the heading could be like 26, be a real big font, or 30. And then the actual text also has got to be bigger than a letter, because it's got to go up on a wall or something. So that I might use font size 20. See that? And I might, to highlight certain words, I would press the red button here and print them in red, or bold them so that they stand out, because somebody's got to read your poster. So pretty much with what you've got already, you can now make quite a fancy poster, right? You're just limited by how clever you are, or how artistic you are. I'm not very artistic, so I have difficulty with that. But somebody, who can see colors and shapes and layout, you've pretty much now got everything that you need. Isn't that amazing? Now, Word has 127 different more things in it. If I taught you everything that Word can do, we'd be here till beyond Christmas. But that would just confuse you. What we've seen here is a very substantial percentage of what you need. I'm just going to go over the paragraph briefly, and then we'll break and we'll continue next week, because there's much, much more to come. So any questions on font? And like I said, if you need anything more, you press this little black arrow over here in the bottom right-hand corner that's just pointing downward, and a new submenu will open up, which will give you even more features, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to bother with those right now, right? Okay. You can experiment with yourself. The beauty is you can't hurt yourself. You can't do anything wrong. So go and press this little button and see what that menu pops up. It's got additional features, but I can count on one hand the number of times I needed the additional features, because the actual font has got so much in it. You can see it's got tremendous depth in it. So all you need to know now is what these buttons mean in the font and how to highlight. Let's quickly look at paragraph. Paragraph now says this applies to the entire paragraph, not just to a word or a letter, but to the entire. So this thing here is a paragraph. A paragraph ends when you press the return or enter key. So if you've got on your keyboard, in the middle on the right-hand side is the return or the enter key, right? And it's usually got a little arrow on it going down and to the left. It's like the carriage return on your old typewriter, right? So normally you don't need to type you don't need to look where the end of the line is. Like, you remember on the old typewriter, you had to hit carriage return and pull the carriage across. You don't have to do that anymore. Just type. When Word runs out of space on the right, it will automatically go on to the next line. But Word doesn't know when you want a new paragraph. I say, I've finished this paragraph. I want to skip to a new paragraph entirely. Then you just hit the Enter key, and it will then skip down one line and leave a blank line between two paragraphs, right? So now, if I wanted to change the way this whole paragraph looks, let's see what my options are. So first of all, there are 4 buttons here. These are all buttons. This one, this one, this one, and this one. And that is the way the text looks on the screen. So this one here, you can see it's lined up on the left and it's kind of jagged on the right. If you look at most newspapers, it's all nicely lined up on the left, but at the end, it's a little, it's each line will end where it has to end, depending on how much text there is on that particular line. This one, I'm going to jump to this one, is the other way around. You can see it's ragged on the left and lined up on the right. That you would use for the columns of figures. If you type, let's say you're doing your taxes or something, you're typing column of figures, you want the cents to line up, but they don't line up on the left. You've got a lot of dollars, it'll stick out further. So that's exactly the opposite. This one here, can you see that all the lines are in the middle? This one will center whatever you're typing. And that will probably be when you're typing a heading of some kind. You press this button, the second button here, everything that you're typing will be in the middle of the page. And Word is very clever. The first letter you type will be right in the middle. The second letter you'll type, it'll adjust it. The third letter, it'll keep adjusting it. So whatever you type is exactly in the middle. You don't even have to type it first. It's doing it as you type. It'll adjust it. So typically a heading, some kind of a heading, as we'll see in the example we'll do next week, a heading will be centered. We call that centered. So this is left align. This one is right align. This one is centered. And this one you can figure out. What do you think this one is?
All blocked.
Standard?
It's centered. It's a left and right aligned simultaneously. And you can see that that's kind of what I've done in this note down below. They both, this line ends a little bit short because it's got fewer letters in, but if I continue typing, all of this on the right will exactly line up, and books tend to be like that. They're lined on both sides. So you can choose whichever one you want. This is called justify. I like it to be justified. But if you're happy with left aligned or centered, you use that as well, whatever you want, right? So if I wanted to change the way a paragraph is arranged, all I would have to do is put my cursor somewhere in the paragraph and I can click a different button, right? So if I put my cursor here next to, or anywhere in this, where I've typed the ribbon in MS Word, and I then hit this button here, what do you think is going to happen to this sentence at the top? If I hit this button here.
Will the words be
it's all gonna...
one on top of the other?
No. This is showing you the whole paragraph. Notice this is centered. You see how the lines are centered?
Yeah,
so if I put my cursor anywhere in this paragraph and I hit this button, it'll move this whole thing and center it exactly in the middle of the page. Yeah, see that? And if you delete a word, if I went, now it's all nicely centered, and I deleted the word "the," it will instantly recenter it, because now you've lost a little bit on the left, so it will adjust it again so that the remaining words are exactly as far from the left margin as they are from the right margin. Isn't that pretty cool?
Exactly. Yes.
And this here, when you're justifying, like this one here, what it's actually doing to make the words line up on both sides is it's adding tiny little bits of spaces between the words. You can't even see it. Your eyes will barely see it. But if you look really, really, really carefully, you can see that the gap, for example, between this S and this O is a bit less than the gap between that S and that S. Teeny amount. So it's adding teeny amounts of space that we can hardly see, and it'll line it up exactly. You don't have to do anything for that at all. It just works. But whichever one of these three you want to use is fine. I'll just mention 2 more buttons for you, and then we'll review it next week. This button here, you can see it's got lines of text with bullets next to it. You see the bullets?
Yes.
Right.
So if I type a whole bunch of text and then a new paragraph with a bunch of text and a new paragraph with a bunch of text, if I press this button, it will put a bullet next to them. So let's say you're doing, you know, in your poster, you want to say the vitamins are, right? And then you want to say vitamin A you get from fruit, and vitamin B you get from this, or whatever, something like that. If you then hit the bullet, each one will be slightly indented with a nice bullet down the left. So it's nice and easy to read, right? Do you see that? This one, what do you think this one does?
It'll number.
Well, it's lining them up according to the numbers that you type.
It will number them. It will number the paragraphs. So instead of putting bullets in front of the paragraph, it'll number your paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's really clever. If let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you type another paragraph after paragraph 2, what do you think is going to happen? That will now become 3, and what was 3 will now become 4, right? If you deleted the first paragraph, let's say we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I now just deleted the whole of the first paragraph, what's going to happen? Everything will move up. What was paragraph 2 is now paragraph 1. What was paragraph 3 is now paragraph 2, and so on, right? It automatically moves them up, so there's no gaps. If you delete a paragraph, everything moves up. If you add a paragraph in somewhere, everything below it moves down, and it automatically renumbers, right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So that's really, really interesting. That's useful also for posters and stuff like that, is to number paragraph. Or if you're typing, like I mentioned, one of my students wanted to do a recipe booklet. So that would be ideal to say the ingredients are 1, flour, 2, eggs, 3, you know, you could number the ingredient, or you can just bullet them, or you don't have to use either of the two, but they're very useful. Last trick then, if I pull down, if I press this little arrow here next to the bullets, what do you think I'm going to get?
More choices other than bullets?
Different kinds of bullets. The normal bullet is a little solid black circle, right?
Oh, okay.
But I might want an open circle, or a square bullet, or a triangular bullet. Or there are 67 different bullets that you can choose. Most times I don't bother. I just use that bullet there, right? What happens if I pull down this arrow next to the numbers? Well, that one's a little more complicated. You get different kinds of numbering. You might number it with the numbers 1, 2, 3, or you might, what lawyers do is they number the paragraphs with Roman numerals, right?
Okay.
Little I, little I. 5 is a V and all that kind of junk. You got those kind of options, right? Let's see if we've got. Okay, look here. Everybody see this paragraph that this page we were on before? Can you see that I use different bullets? Instead of a round black bullet, I use this X, right?
Yes.
And the next level in, which is indented, I use this little arrow. Why did I do that? I don't remember, but the way I got this is dead simple. All I did was I said I wanted this bulleted, and I clicked on the down arrow, and this little kind of funny arrow, this thing here, was one of the options. I just clicked on that option, and automatically it put it in. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Can you see? So here's a bullet, here's a bullet, here's a bullet, here's a bullet, and then an indented second level bullet. I used a different one. Not necessary, right? Most cases, a little black circle, you know, filled in black circle is perfectly okay. But you know, if one of the options it'll give you also is the color of the bullet. So if I didn't want this black and white one here, but I wanted it in, you know, red, instead of being where it's shaded in here, it would be red or green or blue or whatever. So there are infinite possibilities, all of which you can get for yourself just by pressing a little button, right?
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
It certainly is.
Any questions?
Well, what strikes my mind is the fact that it could take a day to put together something unique using these features. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas in the olden days, yesteryear, we would have fewer choices, but accomplish the same goal, I think.
It's just this isn't doing anything that you couldn't do in the old days with a stencil. You remember those letters? You had a plastic thing with all the letters in it and you could draw them. It's doing exactly the same. It's just quicker and easier to do, right? And it's also a lot easier to change. In the old days, I remember, you know, when I was a kid at school and I did a science project and we did it with all those colors. And then you say, oh my goodness, I made a spelling error. Well, you got to go do it all over again, right? Or cut things out and stick things. Here you can go back, you say, I spelt the word contains, I left out the O, go and edit it and print it again. All you've wasted is some paper. It'll take you seconds to do it. So this doesn't do anything that we couldn't do in the old days with a marker pens, colored pens, and a typewriter. But it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to do. Right? And of course, everything that you do, we're going to see next week, you can save. In the old days, you know, if you did a science project for school and now you had another science project, you got to start all over again. Here you can save it, and then you can start your next project using the previous one as a template, right? Just delete the stuff that you don't want, and now you've got the paragraphs and the bolding and all that's all done already. You don't have to do it again. So,
Mr. Jeff, who would you say invented? I always like to know whose brilliant mind put together this kind of. Yes, please. Would you tell me? Would you elaborate on how many men or women or kids or who put
Office? Microsoft Office was it came from Microsoft. There were other word processors before Microsoft Word came out. But once Word came out, it wiped all the other guys out. I mean, literally in a year, they were all gone because Microsoft Word was just so much better. And there was one guy, I forget his name. He was an Eastern European guy from Czechoslovakia or somewhere who came and worked for Microsoft in Seattle. And he came up with this idea. He was the designer. And he left Microsoft 10 years later as a very, very, very rich man, right? In fact, I think he was the first guy to go up to the Russian space station. You remember, you could pay to go on the rocket and it cost you $5 million or something. I think he was one of the first guys who did that. So but obviously there was not just one guy involved. There were, plenty of people. And even today, Microsoft probably has 1,000 programmers literally working on improvements to Word all the time. And now this is what we're seeing is Microsoft Word 2016, which, as the name suggests, came out 5 years ago. They have just released Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office 2021. And I have not yet seen it, but from what I understand is they haven't made any massive changes. There are a lot of new features in, but the ribbon is still the same and the buttons you push are the same. There's just a whole lot of clever new features in. I actually don't know what they are, but I type a lot of stuff. I produce a lot of professional level stuff, especially in training courses and so on. And there's nothing that I need that isn't in Word at the moment, right? Yeah. Basically, I use Word and PowerPoint, and I've taught you almost all the secrets. There are a few more that we're going to do next time, but we've done a lot of it now, and we'll actually start with some printed text and see how it was done, professional level text.
Wow. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Be sure to send me that email, and I will send you these exact slides. The slides that you're seeing on the screen, I will send you a copy of these so you can use them as a cheat sheet for yourself, or you can print them out and write notes on, or whatever you want.
So what we really need to do would be to go to our Microsoft Word, I guess you'd say program, and pull up a new document and play with it, huh?
Aha. 100% correct, Pat. You're absolutely right. They say you can read all the books you like on swimming, but you're never going to learn to swim until you get into the pool, right? You can read all the books you like. It isn't going to help you. You have to get in the pool, or you can learn books about riding a bicycle. You eventually got to get on the bicycle. So my suggestion is exactly what you just said, is starting right now, when we finish the session, go and take the newspaper or something and type some stuff. You can hurt yourself. You can get into trouble. You can break your leg. You can get lost in downtown Atlanta or somewhere You know, the worst that can happen is you say, I can't remember what Jeff said. Either send me an email or ask me next week and we'll figure out, you know, you may have missed something. But really, that's it. Just using that section on home, this section over here that's in green, and a newspaper or a book or a magazine or something, just type stuff and play with it. Try and change the color of the letters, underline, bold, italic, all the stuff, bullet points. That's the way to learn how to do it. It's just to try. And once you've done it once or twice, you won't need me at all. It's as simple as that.
Well, we hope not. We're going to be on our own.
I want you to be riding that bicycle down the street by yourself. That word bicycle, or swimming in the word pool.
One thing about using color in our fonts is the nice thing I think now would be the fact that you don't have to buy ink to make it the red. You know what I'm saying? You don't like a printer. You can make it.
Well, it'll be colored on the screen, but if you actually need it in hard copy, then you do need a color printer.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Obviously,
right.
everything will look the way you want on the screen, but that may, you know, you want to show it to other people, then you have to print it out. And, you know, when this first came out, color printers were really unusual and expensive, and most people couldn't afford them. Today, you know, a color printer doesn't cost very much.
The ink does, though.
They give us the printer almost for free, but they catch us on the ink. As we all
They
know.
get you on the ink, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They say printer ink, if you bought it by the bottle, you know, if you bought it like a bottle of Coca-Cola, it would cost like $500.
Right.
Because a little cartridge, you know, a little tiny cartridge, they charge $30, $40 for, and it's only got, you know, a tablespoon of ink in at the most, but they charge $30. So if you could ever get, you know, as I say, if you get a whole bottle of it, they would charge $500, which is ridiculous, of course. But obviously they deliberately give you the printer very cheap so that you can use up the ink. But, you know, the good news is a really good color printer today doesn't cost much at all.
Very well.
Or you can, if you don't have a color printer, when the library's open again, most of the libraries used to have color printers. You could always print it there.
Okay, great. Well, this has been very helpful.
Enjoy the rest of the week. I have a session on Windows on Thursday, if you're interested in that. And what then time? Next Tuesday, same station, same time, we'll continue with the magic of Microsoft Word.
What time on Thursday is the Windows?
Windows, yeah, Windows 10.
But what time? What time?
Same time. 11 to 12. Okay. Also 4 sessions, 4 Thursdays, and this word class is 4 Tuesdays.
Okay, this word class is on Tuesdays. Okay, I'm not into.
Yes, ma'am. Every Tuesday, 11 to 12 for the next 4 weeks. And again, you'll get more out of the class if you actually do what Pat suggested. Go play with it. So the next session, you can come to me and you say, I couldn't make it go bold. It didn't work. And then we'll figure out, you know, what it is, why it didn't work for you, right? If, you know, but if it works, then you don't need to ask me any questions, right? You'll know how to do bold and color and underline and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Closing out now.